That's right.
And the main finding of that. And so,
this is a file for tomorrow, but it's no problem. Yeah. So what you can see is a lot of licenses are given. It takes about 20 years for this file. And what you see is Iran is in it. They give the license in the year 1967 to the Shah, Reza Pahlavi. He was Western orientated. So we say, okay, he's a good friend of us. So there's an Iran state company producing since 1968 the G3, and now the sensation is up to now. Yeah. So in a Western thinking, you always say Iran is a very, very terrible country. Maybe it's one of the most, besides North Korea. But the standard weapon of the Iranian army is the German G3 produced in Iran. Up to now.
I'm not worried about Iran. I'm worried about Sudan.
Okay, that's right.
And the export from Iran and the total inactivity. And perhaps this is an idea to target some of your lobbying power, not so much to the production, what's going on in Oberhof, but perhaps responsibilize the German state, which is the real owner of that license, about the production going on in Iran and the export, the continuing export to Khartoum, that then donates it to proxy army groups on the frontier.
It's not easy to explain, but what I can say is they are giving license. This. The G3 rifle is G3 license is owned by the German state. It's the only license of HNK. All the other licenses for pistols and grenade launchers, not grenade launchers, but you can say attack rifles like this, combat rifles is owned by HNK. All the others. So. The German government was giving this license to Iran. We know, and you are right, that Iran was exporting, maybe is exporting to some African countries, Sudan and others. So in the civil war of Sudan, G3, you find a lot of G3, I show one picture. They are usually coming from the Iranian production, what you can say. But the German government and none of the governments equal which party ever said to the Iranian government, give us back the license. We want to stop production. It's never done. Yeah? So the guilty, the most guilt is lying with the government at that time. With the Iranian production, license production, maybe not by HNK. And sometimes HNK say we don't want to have a governmental license because we want to deliver the weapons from Oberhof, our own weapons.
I think we should really involve Andrew in this discussion now, and I would like to ask Andrew Feinstein to give us his presentation, and afterwards we will have time for discussion. I don't need to present Andrew Feinstein again.
Thanks very much, Gordon. First, let me just say that I think the work that Jürgen is doing, I actually cannot believe that he has a day job. I'm feeling completely inadequate, so I'm hoping that where he teaches, they feel he never teaches because he's never there. Because I do not know how you do this sort of work.
You know, the teachers in Germany are always playing golf.
But I don't play golf. With the arms manufacturer. But the reality is that I think what we need to aim for as activists, especially on a global level, is really to have a Jürgen in every country.
Yeah.
What we could then do is every year we could just put all of that work together and have online an extraordinary resource base. The key will be to find money to be able to enable people to do this sort of thing in every country. Jürgen, can I ask you to go back to that picture of the shareholder? Yeah. In 1934, a very famous book was written called The Merchants of Death. There they are. You know, some of the methodologies might have changed a little bit, but basically there is no difference to what was written about at such a crucial time in history as to what these gentlemen do today. And you might ask the question, why is the majority shareholder based in London? I'm sure there are lots of reasons, but I'll give you two. Eva Jolie, who is one of the most famous anti-corruption investigators that we've ever had, who was an investigative magistrate in France, who was responsible for exposing the Aquitaine scandal in France, and who is now an MEP, gave a talk once in a room in the Houses of Parliament in London about 80 years ago. And she stood up before an audience that was mainly members of Parliament in the UK, and she said to them, the square mile of the City of London, the financial district in London, is the money laundering capital of the world. And the reason for that is that you, the members of Parliament, have no interest in doing anything about it. And that's the truth. And that is why you find people who are majority shareholders in weapons companies, people who are involved as arms dealers or agents or brokers in the industry, tend to be located in the United Kingdom, where not only is it incredibly easy to launder money, but the chances of somebody involved in the arms trade actually being prosecuted are virtually nil. There is more chance of the current South African president, Jacob Zuma, who 10 days before he was elected to office faced 783 counts of corruption, fraud and racketeering in relation to the deal that I mentioned yesterday. There is more chance of President Zuma being prosecuted in South Africa than there is of gentlemen like this or any other arms dealers ever being prosecuted in the United Kingdom. The other place they live, obviously, is Switzerland. I would love to know the percentage of residents of Zug in Switzerland who are arms dealers. And even because of some slight changes to transparency laws in Switzerland, a few of the arms dealers, Heinrich Thoma springs to mind, have even left Switzerland. He now bases himself in Montenegro, where he has very close relationships with the Prime Minister of the country. A couple of other things that I just wanted to add to Jürgen's presentation, which I think is mind-blowing, is don't forget the other thing that I said yesterday. You saw the picture of Gerhard Schröder shaking hands with Muammar Gaddafi. So what knowledge do you think he had of the 300 million euro bribe to Gaddafi paid by Feinstein? I would say one of two things. Either he knew nothing, in which case he's entirely incompetent and should not have held high political office in any country, let alone Germany. Or he is complicit in the bribe paid of German companies as a tool of German foreign policy. You can guess which I think is the real situation. In London, we not only have this gentleman, but the same Feinstein that paid the 300 million euro bribe to Gaddafi set up a company at the time with ThyssenKrupp, but Krupp has since withdrawn from it, called Marine Force International in Mayfair in London. And like Jürgen and I worry that Jürgen and I might have the largest and most diversified portfolio of single shares in weapons companies around the world. But like Jürgen, we tried to gain entrance to MFI. So we arrived at the door, very smart building in Mayfair. But unlike all the other buildings, there were two very large bodyguards at the door. They wouldn't let us in, because we could not prove that we had an appointment with anybody at MFI. If you look at the financial statements of the company, they do very little business and about 97% of their income is spent on their offices and on salary. What does MFI actually do? It is a vehicle created by Ferrostyle to assist the company to drives on arms deals around the world. But even worse than that, it provides that service to other weapons manufacturers around the world. So it facilitates their payment of grants, primarily through incredibly complex economic offset arrangements. Another point I wanted to make in relation to something that Jürgen had raised. We saw the picture of Helmut Kohl, the unifier of Germany. There was an instance in which the party treasurer of the CDU crossed the German border into Switzerland to have a meeting with the man whose name you've probably heard of in this country, Karl-Heinz Schneider. This was maybe the only meeting to take place in a parking lot of a supermarket. And all that happened in the meeting is that briefcases of cash were handed over from Mr. Schreiber to the party treasurer of the CDU. Mr. Kohl's tenure as leader of the CDU was largely funded by proceeds from both legal and illegal arms deals in which the German state was involved. I'm not sure that through all the research that I've done globally, I have found a case of a political leader and his party being bankrolled to that extent by the proceeds of the arms trade. Very quickly, on EADS, I mentioned briefly yesterday the Saudi case that the retired lieutenant colonel in the British Army had blown the whistle on, a £2 billion contract in which the main interest of the Saudis wasn't in delivery of the contract. They didn't even have any counterpart workers for him to train in Saudi Arabia. It was on the commissions, the bribes, that were being paid through Panama and through a group of beneficial companies to various Saudi royals. But the incredible thing is that retired Lieutenant Colonel Ian Foxley has stated publicly that the most senior executives in EADS knew exactly what was going on in the transaction. How does he know that? Because he personally went to the head office to brief them and to show them the documents that he had put together while he was in Saudi Arabia. How does the company respond to these sorts of things? When Foxley first arrived in Riyadh, he was told by the most senior company executive there to have no contact with the chief executive officer of the project because he was mentally unbalanced. How was he mentally unbalanced? He had made the accusations of financial crime in relation to the Saudi deal. So how do companies deal with it? They call the whistleblowers insane. They know about what's going on and nothing happens to them. In addition to which, the British Ministry of Defence knew from 1998 that payments were being made to the beneficial companies that were again used on this latest, most recent Saudi transaction. Did they take any action? No. Have they taken any action since this has been made public? No. EADS was accused late last year in a different case of paying at least 50 billion euros of bribes in Austria in efforts to sell the Eurofighter, again through complex offset arrangements. On the South African deal that I tried to investigate as a member of Parliament, Mercedes, the Daimler Corporation,